So picture this. In the dead of night, January 3rd, 2026, U.S. Special Forces do something that most people thought was, well, unthinkable. They capture the sitting president of a sovereign country. Now, this single event did way more than just make headlines. It shook the very foundations of our global order. Today, we're going to dig into how this one raid reveals a new, more aggressive warrior spirit in global politics and what that might mean for all of us.
All right, here's how we're going to break this down. We'll start right at the beginning with the capture itself. Then we'll follow the shockwaves as they ripple out, first across Latin America and then to global powers like Russia and China who, never miss a chance to play the game. After that, we'll look at the economic chaos and ask the biggest question of all. Did the rulebook for how the world works just get torn up?
So our story kicks off in Caracas, Venezuela. In a lightning-fast operation, the United States didn't just back a rival or meddle in an election. No, they physically reached into another country and snatched its leader. This was a whole new level of direct intervention, something we really haven't seen in a modern era. And this was the moment that just stopped the world in its tracks. A sitting head of state captured. The announcement came straight from President Trump himself. Nicolas Maduro and his wife were now in U.S. custody. In that one moment, a fundamental line in how nations deal with each other had just been crossed. Now you can probably guess where the reaction was the most intense, right in Venezuela's neighborhood. For so many in Latin America, this wasn't just some distant political drama. It was a painful reminder of a very long, very troubled history with U.S. intervention. It just ripped open a lot of old wounds. And when Brazil's president, Lula da Silva, said this, it carried enormous weight. He's a major leader in the region, and his condemnation was powerful. You see, he didn't view this as some kind of police action. He saw it for what it was, a brutal violation of sovereignty, a throwback to an era where the only rule was might makes right. Okay, so while Latin America was reeling, you better believe America's biggest rivals were watching and taking notes. For Russia and China, this wasn't just an event to condemn, it was an opportunity. Their reactions were really calculated moves in a much, much larger global chess game. And what's fascinating here is that they have two totally different playbooks. On one hand, you've got Russia. The Kremlin basically saw this as a green light. The thinking goes, hey, if the US can do this in their sphere of influence, why can't we do the same in ours? China, on the other hand, is playing the long game. They're avoiding a direct fight and instead are weaponizing the law itself. And this brings us to this really critical idea called lawfare. As Professor Zheng Yi points out, what the US did was brilliantly blur the line between war and policing. By legally labeling the entire Venezuelan government a criminal organization, they try to turn an act of war into a simple arrest. It's a clever way to sidestep international law and act like this is just a domestic police issue that just happens to be on a global scale. To really get China's strategy here, you have to hear this fantastic analogy from Dr. Mabila. The whole point is to not get dragged into America's game on America's terms. Instead of reacting with force, Beijing's play is to stand back, point out how the U.S. is breaking all the rules, and just wait for the perfect moment to use its own economic and legal power. But it wasn't just Russia and China. This move by the U.S. created deep, deep fractures all over the world. It didn't unite everyone against a supposed bad guy. Instead, it forced nations everywhere to pick a side, drawing new lines in the sand. And you can see that division so clearly here. On one side, you had furious condemnation. We're talking rivals like North Korea and even neighbors like Colombia, who called it state terrorism. Then in the middle, you had European allies kind of nervously calling for calm and respect for the law. And on the other side, you had staunch U.S. allies like Israel and Argentina cheering it on. The world was completely split. But this story isn't just about politics and international law. The raid in Caracas sent immediate, massive shockwaves through the global economy. This affected everything from the price of oil to the stability of entire countries' debts. I mean, think about it. Markets absolutely hate surprises and uncertainty. An operation like this, it's like throwing a grenade into the system. The risk of a bigger conflict, plus a mad scramble for Venezuela's resources, put the entire global financial system on red alert. And right at the heart of all this economic chaos is one just staggering number, 303 billion. That's how many barrels of oil Venezuela is sitting on. It is the largest proven reserve on the entire planet. Whoever controls that oil has the power to literally reshape the world's energy markets. And this chart here tells that whole story. After hitting a peak back in the 90s, production just cratered because of sanctions and mismanagement. But the potential is absolutely enormous. With new investment, that production could easily double or more. That's basically like adding a whole new oil-producing country to the world's supply, which could have a huge impact on what we all pay at the pump. So let's pull all these threads together now. We've got a dramatic military raid, a tricky new legal justification, a world that's totally divided, and massive economic stakes. It all forces us to ask, are we witnessing a fundamental change in the rules of the game?
This quote from analyst Mark Galeotti just nails it. The raid really suggests we're drifting away from a system where every nation is supposed to be equal under the law, and we're heading back to a much older, cruder reality. A world where great powers do what they want in their own backyards. A world where might, once again, makes right.
And that leaves us with this huge, unsettling question. The U.S. called its operation in Caracas law enforcement. But when the most powerful country on earth uses its military to enforce its own laws on everyone else, well, that challenges the very idea of an international system. Is it still law, or is it just the law of the jungle? There's no easy answer, but figuring it out will define the world we're all going to live in.